This much we know.
So, Francis, really enjoyed your documentary in the sense that I remember, I think it was in 2016 when I first saw the documentary Camera Person, and me and my podcast co-host, we had arguments, and he said, "Oh, it's just a bunch of images," and I didn't know what was going on. But for me, I completely just vibed with it, and it was really emotional and resonant, and it still resonates with me today. Were you ever a fan of that documentary? I'm not saying that it's a one-to-one comparison, but can you just talk about taking the documentary form and realizing it can be more than just talking heads and a point? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for making that connection. And no, I won't compare my film to that film. It's a masterpiece. It's funny you bring up Camera Person because I finished my film, This Much We Know, and about a month before the release of it, the release is coming up this weekend. I ran into Kirsten Johnson on the street. I stopped her and I said, I just want to tell you how much your films have inspired me and have kept me going over the years because they showed me that there could be a strong female protagonist with a strong vision and with a strong different interpretation of what documentary can be. And she was so happy that I stopped her and we exchanged information. I actually asked her to come see my film, so hopefully she will.
I hope she does
But
see your
yeah,
film.
camera person is like, I know. Yeah, I actually asked her to come do the Q&A, but our schedules might not match up, but who knows, maybe she might show up. No, she's just a wonderful person, and I think like stylistically it really spoke to me. Yeah, Kirsten Johnson's work is really inspiring to me. Adam Curtis's work is really inspiring to me. Agnes Varda's essay films as well. Chris Marker, kind of, for me personally, I know he's like a masterful filmmaker, but for me, like stylistically, yeah, the other filmmakers have really, yeah, guided me in ways and broken open this art form.
So this documentary, it has so many different layers to it. There's an investigation to Levi's suicide, but most importantly, his life and his journey. And then you're also focusing on Las Vegas and suicide rates in Las Vegas and the nuclear waste, Yucca Mountains, and you're trying to tie it all in together. But I think for me personally, the bigger picture is you're on a journey to try to know the unknowable, which I think is so tough to do. And it goes beyond words and feelings. I think what was that like? Actually, you're tackling these subjects, but you're also trying to reach that horizon as a filmmaker, and more importantly, as a person, and trying to connect with us too. That was my read on it. Can you speak to that? I guess.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of a myth of Sisyphus kind of effort, to think that you're going to reach the top and find the answer. And I think in the search for finding answers is what is most interesting. It's the search itself. It's not, for me, I never believed that I was going to find answers that were going to be satisfying enough. I found many answers, but um, in terms of what caused Levi to take his life that day, when there were no signs beforehand, what caused my best friend to take her life when there were no apparent signs beforehand that she was in distress. I came to realize that like no answer would be enough, you know. And in our search for unknowable, like answers to unknowable things, I think there is a certain understanding that we're not going to be able to find a satisfactory answer. And that's true for if nuclear waste can be safely stored inside a mountain for over 1 million years. We like haven't been around for 1 million years. We can't, if a computer can calculate it and numerically like spit out kind of, the risk benefit analysis, like that's the best we can do. But we also need to also understand that like that's like the best we can know and it's not actually a definitive answer. I think we've become so obsessed with having answers and having like truth and versions of the truth that we're becoming so polarized, and this idea of like a black and white world where it's either yes or no doesn't really exist. It seems like more of like a scientific approach that, or like a computer analytical approach that I wanted to like push against and explore, all right, what are the different versions of the truth? What are different versions of knowing something? Can it be spiritual? Can there be a gray area that we exist in that's not yes or no, but is an embracing of all kinds of truths? So yeah, that's a long answer to your question about the unknowable, but it is a big a big idea. So
I can only imagine how much work it took to develop a visual language for your documentary. And on top of that, just your editing. What was your overall plan? Because this is a very ambitious documentary, the way it's shot, the way the images are cut together. It just seems like a very long in the process, months upon months of just shaping your documentary. What work went into that?
yes, months upon months and years upon years, about 12 years. So it started off as, I mean, it's an adaptation of a book called About a Mountain by John D'Agata. And John D'Agata is, I think, and many other people think, one of the greatest, contemporary essayists in America. And his depiction of reality is very, the way he writes is very lyrical, and it's very, um, it has like a rhythm to it. And when I read the book, I immediately saw the film visually because he's just that good of a writer. He transports you there. But when I started to adapt the book into a film, I actually went down the route of a narrative screenplay with the actors, which I had never done before. And it really felt uncomfortable to me. Not just because I hadn't never done it before, but that I actually was testing my comfort level working within, a pretend world that I was constructing, and it didn't feel right to me. I wanted to work with real people, and so that took me a number of years to meet the people, do pre-interviews, go out there and film, get like money from CineReach and Jerome Foundation. They were the only foundations that supported me. And I was so grateful for that. And then I came back with all this footage, and I needed to figure out, okay, what is this? And what am I actually searching for? Because it's one thing to adapt a book, but if it's not personal, it doesn't like carry water. It doesn't hold water. So my producer, like 6 years into the process, was like, okay, you're stuck here. You've got some kind of like filmmaker's writer's block. What makes this personal to you? Like, why are you doing this? And then I brought up my friend who had taken her life. She had never kind of come into the story at all until that point. And once I fully embraced that as my motivation, things started to fall into place a lot more. So yeah, it was adding the personal aspect that just sent me down another path to like a more, yeah, like a more honest, earnest film.
This much we know. My final question to you is, I think about the people who this is going to divide some viewers, and I want to know, but I think cinephiles will say, I really will want to know what films influenced you. So after watching this much we know, can you give a specific film? Doesn't have to be like we said earlier, like a one-to-one situation, but something that really impacted you, because I'm sure there will be people who are impacted by this film as well. But what can you name one film that impacted you and what makes it a unique experience for you as a cinephile yourself?
Yeah, Patricio Guzman's film, Nostalgia for the Light, um, is a beautiful film, and it combines two different storylines. One about it takes place in Chile, and um, there is this huge astronomy community that people fly there from all over the world to look at the stars because the night sky is it's so dark and you can see so many stars. But also during the I my history is not very good, but there are many dead bodies buried around that desert, and there are these women who go out and try to search for their loved ones. who have not been found. And so he goes back and forth between looking at the night sky and these astronomers trying to look for the stars and look beyond what we know, and these women trying to find, their dead loved ones' remains. Um, and it's so beautifully intertwined. And when I watched that film and listened to Patricio Guzman's voiceover, I realized tonally, like I could have that same exploration in my film, that I could try to connect two very different things and try to find some kind of like deeper connection that speaks to our humanity and our imperfection.
And finally, after years of working on this documentary, you were talking about deep connection. What has been like, actually, I don't know how many screenings or fests you've entered this, or just a dialogue you've gotten from people who've seen your film. What has that been like, just in the big picture sense of it?
Yeah, big picture. Well, we premiered at Camden. We went to Big Sky. We went to Dock NYC. We went to River Run. We went to Refocus, which is a great new festival in Iowa. So, from many of those festivals, I had an overwhelming response from people who just wanted to connect with me afterward and share their own experiences of people they've grieved because they took their lives, or even mental illnesses that they themselves have experienced. And it was like the film is very awakening to them. And I had one woman actually share during the Q&A that she had attempted to take her life and then failed, and that watching this film was a huge catharsis for her. And she thanked me. And these are the things that I was actually, quite honestly, not prepared for. And making the connection with this other side, which is the nuclear waste side, and how much we can study a mountain and know if it can safely store nuclear waste for a million years, versus studying suicide and if we can know why a person took their life definitively. People who have never faced the Yucca Mountain nuclear waste debate still made that connection between the two, and their own grief and their own like anxiety of wanting to know answers and not being able to. And so engaging in that very sticky philosophical world together. And I am not a philosopher, but I like thinking about these philosophical quandaries. Um, it was a huge like connection between us and a huge bond. So I'm just looking forward to more of those conversations. And I think truthfully, we need more of those conversations to kind of heal in our very polarized world. So
Francis, thank you so much for your time. Really, really loved your documentary.
thank you, Greg, so much. It's really delightful to speak with you.
Okay, pleasure. Take care. Bye bye.